Section 8 of Drake by Alfred Noyes. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Cynthia Moyer. Book 4, Part 2. Now to the Strait Magellanus they came, and entered in with ringing shouts of joy. Nor did they think there was a fairer strait in all the world than this which lay so calm between great silent mountains crowned with snow, unutterably lonely, marvellous the pomp of dawn and sunset on those heights, and like a strange new sacrilege the advance of prows that ploughed that time-forgotten tide. But soon rude flaws, cross-currents, tortuous channels bewildered them, and many a league they drove as down some vaster Acheron, while the coasts with wailing voices cursed them all night long, and once again the hideous fires leapt red by many a grim wrenched crag and gaunt ravine. So for 100 leagues of whirling spume they groped, till suddenly, far away, they saw, full of the sunset, like a cup of gold, the purple westward portals of the strait. Onward o'er roughening waves they plunged and reached Capo Desiderato, where they saw what seemed stupendous in that lonely place, gaunt, black, and sharp as death against the sky, the cross, the great black cross on Cape Desire, which dead Magellan raised upon the height to guide, or so he thought, his wandering ships, not knowing they had left him to his doom, not knowing how with tears of joy, rapture, and terrible triumph and deep awe, another should come voyaging and read unutterable glories in that sign; while his rough seamen raised their mighty shout, and once again before his wondering eyes league upon league of awful burnished gold rolled the unknown immeasurable sea. Now in those days, as even Magellan held, men thought that southward of the strait there swept firm land up to the white Antarctic pole, which now not far they deemed. But when Drake passed from out the strait to take his northward way up the Pacific coast, a great head wind suddenly smote them, and the heaving seas bulged all around them into billowy hills, dark rolling mountains whose majestic crests, like wild white flames, far blown and savagely flickering, swept through the clouds; and on their sullen slopes, like wind-whipped withered leaves, those little ships, now hurtled to the zenith and now plunged down into bottomless gulfs, were suddenly scattered and whirled away. Drake, on the Golden Hind, one moment saw them near him, soaring up above him on the huge o'erhanging billows, as if to crash down on his poop; the next, a mile of howling sea had swept between each of those wind-whipped straws, and they were gone through roaring deserts of embattled death, where, like 100,000 chariots charged with lightnings and with thunders, one great wave, leading the unleashed ocean down, the storm hurled them away to southward. One last glimpse Drake caught o' the Marigold, when some mighty vortex, wide as the circle of the wide sea line, swept them together again. He saw her staggering, with mast snapped short and wreckage tangled deck where men like insects clung. He saw the waves leap over her mangled hulk like wild white wolves, volleying out of the clouds down dismal steeps of green black water, like a wounded steed quivering upon its haunches, up she heaved her head to throw them off. Then in one mass of fury crashed the great deep over her, trampling her down, down into the nethermost pit, as with a madman's wrath. She rose no more, and in the stream of the ocean's hurricane laughter the Golden Hind went hurtling to the south, with sails rent into ribbons and her mast snapped like a twig. Yea, where Magellan thought firm land had been, the little Golden Hind whirled like an autumn leaf through league on league of bursting seas, chaos on crashing chaos, a rolling wilderness of charging Alps that shook the world with their tremendous war, grim beetling cliffs that grappled with clamorous gulfs, valleys that yawned to swallow the wide heaven, immense white flowering fluctuant precipices, and hills that swooped down at the throat of hell. From pole to pole one blanching bursting storm of world-wide oceans, where the huge Pacific roared greetings to the Atlantic, and both swept in broad white cataracts league on struggling league, pursuing and pursued, immeasurable, with Titan hands grasping the rent black sky, east, west, north, south. Then was battle indeed of midget men upon that wisp of grass, the Golden Hind, who, as her masts crashed, hung, clearing the tiny wreckage from small decks with ant-like weapons. Not their captain's voice availed them now amidst the deafening thunder of seas that felt the heavy hand of God. Only they saw across the blinding spume, in steely flashes, grand and grim, a face like the last glimmer of faith among mankind, calm in this warring universe, where Drake stood, lashed to his post, beside the helm. Black seas buffeted him. Half stunned he dashed away the sharp brine from his eagle eyes, and turned to watch some mountain range come rushing down, as if to o'erwhelm them utterly. Once, indeed, welkin and sea were one black wave, white fanged, white crested, and upheaped so mightily that, though it coursed more swiftly than a herd of Titan steeds upon some terrible plain nigh the huge city of Ombos, yet it seemed most strangely slow, with all those crumbling crests, each like a cataract on a mountain side, and moved with the steady majesty of doom, high over him. One moment's flash of fear, and yet not fear, but rather life's regret, felt Drake, then laughed a low deep laugh of joy, such as men taste in battle. Yea, 'twas good to grapple thus with death. One low deep laugh, one mutter as of a lion about to spring, then burst that thunder o'er him. Height o'er height the heavens rolled down, and waves were all the world. Meanwhile in England, dreaming of her sailor, far off his heart's bride waited, of a proud and stubborn house the bright and gracious flower, whom oft her father urged with scanty grace that Drake was dead and she had best forget the fellow, he grunted, for her father's heart was fettered with small memories, mocked by all the greater world's traditions, and the trace of earth's low pedigree among the suns, ringed with the terrible twilight of the gods, ringed with the blood-red dusk of dying nations, his faith was in his grandam's mighty skirt, and in that awful consciousness of power, had it not been that even in this he feared to sully her silken flounce or farthingale with a white dust on his hands, he would have chalked to his own shame, thinking it shame, the word nearest to God in its divine embrace of agonies and glories, the dread word Demos, across that door in Nazareth whence came the prentice carpenter whose voice hath shaken kingdoms down, whose menial gibbet rises triumphant o'er the wreck of empires, and stretches out its arms amongst the stars. But she, his daughter, only let her heart lovably forge a charter for her love, cheat her false creed with faithful fairy dreams that wrapped her love in mystery, thought perchance he came of some unhappy noble race, ruined in battle for some lost high cause. And in the general mixture of men's blood, her dream was truer than his whose bloodless pride urged her to wed the chinless moon-struck fool sprung from 500 years of idiocy, who now besought her hand, would force her bear some heir to a calf's tongue and a coronet, whose cherished taints of blood will please his friends with, yea, Sir William's firstborn hath the freak, the family freak being embryonic, yea, and with a fine half-wittedness, forsooth. Praise God, our children's children yet shall see the lord o' the manor muttering to himself at midnight by the griffin-guarded gates, or gnawing his nails in desolate corridors, or pacing moonlit halls, dagger in hand, waiting to stab his father's pitiless ghost. So she, the girl, sweet Bess of Sydenham, most innocently proud, was prouder yet than thus to let her heart stoop to the lure of lording lovers, though her unstained soul slumbered amidst those dreams, as in old tales the princess in the enchanted forest sleeps, till the prince wakes her with a kiss and draws the far-flung hues o' the gleaming magic web into one heart of flame. And now for Drake she slept like Brunhild in a ring of fire which he must pass to win her, for the wrath of Spain now flamed, awaiting his return all round the seas of home, and even the Queen Elizabeth flinched as that tremendous power menaced the heart of England, flinched and vowed Drake's head to Spain's ambassadors, though still by subtlety she hoped to find some way later to save or warn him ere he came. Perchance too, nay, most like, he will be slain, or even now lies dead out in the west, she thought, and then the promise works no harm. But day by day there came, as on the wings of startled winds from o'er the Spanish main, strange echoes, as of sacked and clamouring ports and battered gates of fabulous golden cities, a murmur out of the sunset of Peru, a sea-bird's wail from Lima, while no less the wrathful menace gathered up its might all round our little isle, till now the King Philip of Spain half secretly decreed the building of huge docks from which to launch a fleet invincible that should sweep the seas of all the world, throttle with one broad grasp all Protestant rebellion, having stablished his red feet in the Netherlands, thence to hurl his whole world empire at this little isle, England, our mother, home and hope and love, and bend her neck beneath his yoke, for now no half surrender sought he. At his back, robed with the scarlet of 1,000 martyrs, admonishing him, stood Rome, and in her hand, grasping the cross of Christ by its great hilt, she pointed it like a dagger towards the throat of England. 1 long year, 2 years had passed since Drake set sail from grey old Plymouth Sound, and in those woods of fairy wonder still slumbered his love in steadfast faith. But now with louder lungs her father urged, "He is dead, forget him. There is one that loves you, seeks your hand in marriage, and he is a goodly match, e'en for my daughter. You shall wed him, Bess." But when the new found lover came to woo, glancing in summer silks and radiant hose, whipped doublet and enormous pointed shoon, she played him like a fish, and sent him home spluttering with dismay, a stickleback discoloured, a male minnow of dimpled streams, with all his rainbows paling in the prime, to hide amongst his lilies, while once more she took her casement seat that overlooked the sea, and read in Master Spenser's book, which Francis gave to my dear lady and queen, Bess, that most rare processional of love, "Sweet Thames, run softly till I end my song." Yet did her father urge her day by day, and day by day her mother dinned her ears with petty saws, as when I was a girl, and I remember what my father said, and love, oh feather fancies plucked from geese you call your poets. Yet she hardly meant to slight true love, save in her daughter's heart. For the old folk ever find it hard to see the passion of their children. When it wakes, the child becomes a stranger. So with Bess. But since her soul still slumbered, and the moons rolled on and blurred her soul's particular love with the vague unknown impulse of her youth, her brave resistance often melted now in tears, and her will weakened day by day, till on a dreadful summer morn there came, borne by a wintry flaw, home to the Thames, a bruised and battered ship, all that was left, so said her crew, of Drake's ill-fated fleet. John Winter, her commander, told the tale of how the Golden Hind and Marigold had by the wind Euroclydon been driven sheer o'er the howling edges of the world, of how himself by God's good providence was hurled into the strait Magellanus, of how on the horrible frontiers of the void he had watched in vain, lit red with beacon fires the desperate coasts o' the black abyss whence none ever returned, though many a week he watched beneath the cross, and only saw God's wrath burn through the heavens and devastate the mountains, and hurl unheard of oceans roaring down after the lost ships in one cataract of thunder and splendour and fury and rolling doom. Then, with a bitter triumph in his face, as if this were the natural end of all such vile plebeians, as if he had foreseen it, as if himself had breathed a tactful hint into the aristocratic ears of God, her father broke the last frail barriers down, broke the poor listless will o' the lonely girl, who, careless now of aught but misery, promised to wed their lordling. Mighty speed they made to press that loveless marriage on, and ere the May had mellowed into June, her marriage eve had come. Her cold hands held Drake's gift. She scarce could see her name writ broad by that strong hand as it was, "To my Queen Bess." She looked out through her casement o'er the sea, Listening its old enchanted moan, which seemed striving to speak she knew not what. Its breath fluttered the roses round the grey old walls and shook the ghostly jasmine. A great moon hung like a red lamp in the sycamore. A corncrake in the hay fields far away Chirped like a cricket, and the nightjar churred his passionate love song. Soft winged moths besieged her lantern. Under many a star stabbed elm the nightingale began his golden song, whose warm thick notes are each a drop of blood from that small throbbing breast against the thorn pressed close to turn the white rose into red. Even as her lawn clad May white bosom pressed, quivering, against the bars, while her dark hair streamed round her shoulders, and her small bare feet gleamed in the dusk. Then spake she to her maid, "I cannot sleep, I cannot sleep to night. Bring thy lute hither and sing. Alison, think you the dead can watch us from their distant world? Can our dead friends be near us when we weep? I wish 'twere so, for then my love would come, no matter then how far, my love would come, and he'd forgive me." Then Bess bowed down her lovely head, her breast heaved with short sobs sickening at the heart. She grasped the casement, moaning, "Love, love, love, come quickly, come, before it is too late. Come quickly, oh, come quickly." Then her maid slipped a soft arm around her and gently drew The supple quivering body shaken with sobs, And all that firm young sweetness to her breast, And led her to her couch; and all night long She watched beside her, till the marriage morn Blushed in the heartless east. Then swiftly flew the pitiless moments, till, as in a dream, And borne along by dreams, or like a lily Cut from its anchorage in the stream to glide Down the smooth bosom of an unknown world Through fields of unknown blossom, so moved Bess amongst her maids as the procession passed Forth to the little church upon the cliffs. And, as in those days was the bridal mode, Her lustrous hair in billowing beauty streamed Dishevelled o'er her shoulders, while the sun Caressed her bent and glossy head, and shone Over the deep blue white flaked wrinkled sea On full blown rosy petalled sails that flashed Like flying blossoms fallen from her crown. End of Book 4.